All right. Well, we got 3 minutes in. This is estimators. I'm sure we'll get a few people behind us, but we're going to get through the nuances of the beginning. So, my name's Jeff Sample. I am the head of communications at Join. We are your communications sponsor, and you have joined the ASPE Chapter 2's webinar on the introduction to value methodology. We're really excited here at Join to be the communication sponsor and to partner with the ASPE chapters to bring great content that really helps the entire industry move forward. Give you a little bit. Join is a revolutionary pre-construction collaboration software. We really think that you all have stretched the tools that you have. So we've created an innovative new tool set that can really help you shine and help the process and really help your team stand out. So if you want to check out more about that, you can get in touch with myself. It's Jeff@join.build, or just check us out at join.build. That's really all I want to say today, because it's really about our two guests that are going to be giving you a fantastic webinar. And it's my pleasure to introduce two managing partners of RHA. I have Pat Miller with me right there. That's right. She's waving. And Renee Hoekstra. But Renee, you also represent SAVE, which we're going to be hearing a lot more about later on in this webinar, aren't we?
Correct.
Well, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to turn off my camera. Before I turn off my camera, a couple little housekeeping things for you. Remember, today is brought to you by ASPE2.org. Check out for all our upcoming webinars there. We're really bringing great content. Joins the communication sponsor, so we're happy to partner with them. For today, please chat your questions or use the Q&A. We're going to hold them to the end, and Pat and Renee are going to set some time aside to answer them. So feel free to ask them when you want, but we're going to answer them at the end, okay? Appreciate that. With that, Pat, Renee, take it away. Have a great show.
Thanks, Jeff. Greatly appreciate it. And we're really actually honored to be here. Just really quick for introductions. As Jeff said, my name is Renee Hoekstra. I am one of the managing partners for RHA. I am a certified value specialist. Been leading value engineering teams for, I don't know, probably 18 years. I also do partnering facilitation for construction. And I am currently the president of SAVE International. And I'm going to let Pat go ahead and introduce herself.
I'm Renee's business partner, Pat Miller, also a certified value specialist, and I have a huge heart for cost estimators.
Correct. Thanks, Pat. So we have a lot that we want to be able to talk about today. So we talk about our topics and the introduction to VM, which is the value methodology. I do want you to realize that there is a lot of information. I have deleted a whole lot of slides. So we are going to be blowing through and trying to really cover what value methodology is all about, I think, because there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings out there. Then what we also want to share with you, which we're really, really excited about, our clients are really enthusiastic about how we're approaching our workshops virtually, especially with this pandemic. So it's really a great opportunity, and we're excited to share some of that excitement with you. And then I do want to have a little bit of a conversation, because I'm really excited about SAVE International and ASPE and some opportunities that we have to work together. And as Jeff said, we will go ahead and take questions at the end. So we want to go through the introduction to the value methodology. And there's going to be a couple of these slides, and it really is about asking questions. It's about being able to get answers that allow us to look at innovation and opportunities. And by the way we ask the question drives the answer. And that's important, because what's happening is we keep getting the same answers or the same outcomes. Again, I think that's also a sign of craziness. You keep doing the same thing, expect different outcomes. But in this case, we have to go back to, it's not that difficult, but if it is difficult, it does take our team time. Some of our challenges are, though, that we're not using the same language, and sometimes we don't even know the right question to ask. So really what we want to be able to do with the value methodology is, again, it goes back to the question drives the answer. Maybe what we need to do, which is what's fabulous about the value methodology, is ask a different question. And so what we're going to do is talk about how we can do that through the process. So if you think about our traditional approach, right? On the left, you've got the object and the problem. Traditional approach is, and I love my teams, but they're all technically driven professionals, and they go, oh no, here's the solution. Yeah, no, we want them to back up because they're not asking questions. They're just, here's the problem, here's the solution. Well, what the value methodology allows us to do is actually get into more of a divergent way of thinking, because we're talking about functions. And we're going to get into that a little deeper so that you understand that. But because we identify functions versus, oh, it needs to be a building or it needs to be a bridge, we're talking about what is the function of those things. So that leads us to those innovative ideas. So now we get solutions that are different than what we might expect. So one of the other things I want to talk about really quickly, value, and especially I'm going to use the term value engineering. That term, if I hear one more time that, oh yeah, I've been VE'd before, because all anybody thinks about value engineering is it's about cost cutting, and that is not what this is about. Otherwise, why would we call it value at all? But the true definition of value is function over resources. And when we talk about resources, you're talking about manpower, you're talking about capital costs, life cycle cost. You're talking about different things, depending on what your industry is, that identifies resources. So it's important to understand that. So when we talk about value, and we talk about function over resources, and I'm not going to go through this, but I just want you to realize a couple things. True value, the benefit, if you look at this, F being function, R being resources, in that first one, if number one, if we don't change the function, but we save money, that's a good thing. The second one, if we improve function, however we've defined function, and we reduce resources, that's even better. And if we've increased function and there's no added cost. So these are just some examples of when we talk about our ideas and our opportunities, it's not just about saying, yeah, this is a great idea. There is information and data that helps us drive those answers. And so this is what we talk about when we talk about the true definition of value. The other thing that seems to get lost in all of this is it is a formal process. I don't know how many times to tell you that we've gotten together and I've done presentations and people go, what do you mean there's a process? So here, I'm here to tell you that there is a process. And if you look at this, it's an 8-phase, and we're going to go through these really quickly, but it is a systematic process. But what's really important is it's a multidisciplinary team. We don't just throw a set of plans or a set of documents into one person and say, hey, bring me back some, some value ideas. It's a team approach because, again, we want to be able to rely on that synergy. It's a really important part of this. Again, I already said this, and it's one of my favorite discussions. It is not cost reduction. For you cost engineers, I know that this is a huge part of what you do. It is a huge part of what we do. That doesn't mean we don't talk about cost, because, by the way, we have a full cost estimate that goes along with each alternative. But what we have to realize, remember, function over resources. So, but it allows us to look at unnecessary cost, performance improvements, functions improvements, other ways to ensure quality, reliability, life cycle, other critical things. It is not about cost cutting. If you cut costs, what's going to give? It's going to be function. It's going to be performance. But it has to be applied with proper management support and led by professionals such as ourselves when we talk about being a CVS. So here are the 8 phases. We have our entire preparation phase, we have our workshop phase, and we have our implementation phase. And I'm going to blow through these pretty quickly. So our preparation phase is really about getting ready for the workshop, including our subject matter experts. And as cost estimators, I would tell you that we almost always have a cost estimator as one of our subject matter experts. And so there is time ahead of time as we're identifying participants, what are we doing? What are our goals? Where are we going to meet? But we also provide hours to our subject matter experts in the preparation phase to get acquainted with the project. Our cost estimators, we actually give them a few more hours because you guys do cost models for us so that we have adequate data for us to evaluate what's going on. So as we move into the workshop, the first phase is the information phase. Really, that's our opportunity for our value engineering team to finalize our understanding of the project. So we have project presentations by the owner. We talk about project goals, workshop goals. We talk about, we may have a risk register that was done. We'll review the cost estimates. There may be schedules, all of those kinds of things. We do this during the study, the kickoff meeting. Sometimes we may have it earlier or we may have both. But regardless, we always have an information phase so that we make sure we're all on the same page and have the same understanding. And what's even more beneficial is when we have an opportunity to conduct a site visit. Great chance for all of us to get together and talk. So now this phase is the challenging phase, because this is what sets the value methodology aside that makes us different from any other problem solving or process improvement types of tools. So function analysis is really our opportunity to ask different questions and look at the project in different ways. So when we do this, it allows us to produce a more creative, innovative, and even more comprehensive understanding of the object's functions. And I'm going to tell you, in the manufacturing and industry, this is huge, because they are looking at equipment and they're looking at tools. They're looking at, I mean, they get into the minutia of things that they're developing. We do this in design and construction. It's definitely not as complex, but it still gives us an opportunity to confirm scope so that we can really understand what are we studying. So it gives us a chance to actually enhance those results. So what does a function mean? Well, in value terms, function is non-specific, which means, so we're trying to get more broad brushed. We're not trying to get into the weeds. We actually call those activities, not functions. So functions are usually a two-word abstraction, which, by the way, for our SME teams can sometimes be a challenge. They like to use more than two words, but our job is to help them really make sure we have understanding of what we're talking about. So it consists of an active verb and a measurable noun, so that we truly have understanding. So this has to do with a project, a product, a tool, a process, a service, doesn't matter. So if you look at this project, and a lot of times what we really need to understand, as well as all of the functions, we really want to identify the basic function. So if you look at this, and here's the example that I'm going to give you, this is a water pump. So if I asked you, which I can't do that right now, so I'm going to answer it for you, the basic function, and when I usually ask this in our training sessions, here's the answer that I get. The basic function, if we talk about an active verb and a measurable noun, is to pump water. So if that becomes our basic function, and I look at you during our creative phase and I say, okay, how else can we pump water? What have you limited yourself to? A pump, because that's how you defined the basic function. But if the true basic function of a water pump is to move water, because it's going from one point to the next, all of a sudden in that workshop, I get to say, so how else can we move water? And now all of a sudden we go, well, wait a minute, we got enough room to be gravity. We don't even need a pump. I can save us money, I can save us time, and I can even save life cycle because I don't have to fix that thing later. So I just want you to think about, it's very, simplistic in terms, but I just wanted you to get an idea of what that looked like. So after we do function analysis and we brainstorm all of the potential functions for the project, often we'll do what's called a FAST diagram. By the way, that has nothing to do with speed. It stands for Function Analysis Systems Technique. And it is a very powerful tool to really, again, allow the team, and it's a team effort, to really be able to show visibly what this project looks like. As you can see, the teams, they go around, they're moving around. By the way, we should have stock in 3M because we use sticky notes everywhere. But this is a really a great opportunity for us. And so what I'm going to do is show you, and I'm not going to get into this because this is really complicated from the standpoint of trying to walk through it all, and we don't have time here today. But this is what a FAST diagram looks like. But what's really interesting about this, it has nothing to do with process mapping. It is not when I do this, then I do this, then I do this. It's also not a timeline. It's not a schedule. So when we look at this, we build it answering the question how, left to right. Then to confirm that, we answer the question why, right to left. And then when we have functions below or above, it's answering a question, when I do this, this also occurs, or at the same time as. So really what it allows us to do, we start in what we call a high level of abstraction, which, by the way, those two lines that you see, that's our scope. So if you're left of the scope, you're at a high level of abstraction, which is really, if you think about purpose and need, it's the need of a project. If you go all the way to the right side, our lower order or assumed function is almost, it's what starts why we're doing this. It's the process. It's that activity that kicks that in. As you go left to right, higher level of abstraction to lower. Again, this takes a whole lot of time. It's all included, but I did want you guys to see that we have some different tools to allow us to help do that. So then we get into the creative phase. And by the way, this is the fun part, because now what we're going to do is, our goal is not quality, our goal is quantity. So anything goes. We're looking for as many ideas as we can. And what we do is we brainstorm by function, which means what else or how else can we perform or achieve the functions to get us to some creativity? What else will do the job? And you know what is one of my favorites? Why are we doing this? Does this even need to be included? Because as you all know, sometimes we continue to do things because we've always done it that way. We get to get you out of that box. Once we've done creativity, then the team really gets in and we get into evaluation, which means we have to have established those filters that we're going to use as a team. Often we will develop a performance. We'll use a paired comparison. We'll identify the key performance attributes. We'll have looked at project goals. We will have looked at project constraints. And the team uses this, and we have a value index that we use to help them rate and rank these. There's all kinds of ways that you can do this. But again, it's a really great time for the team to come together and really focus on those ideas for us to then select those that we want to move into the next phase. But what we want to do is, it's not about just discarding and getting rid of, because some of these ideas are in their infancy. I mean, we're really not sure. And so we don't want to immediately discard them. We want to be able to maybe get them more into development. But I'm not going to lie to you. We've had some of those that during development kind of die, because we realize after we've gotten into the detail and the information that, you know, it's not going to work, it's not any better, or there are too many other things that are involved. This is the key part, though, of our studies, is the development phase, because we literally have to develop a compelling argument about why this idea is good. It's not just because I said so. We literally go into talking about the baseline. You know, what is it currently? What would be the new proposed idea? We look at benefits. We also look at risks and challenges. We talk about cost estimates compared from the baseline to the proposed. We do life cycle cost analysis where we need to do life cycle cost analysis. We have figures, drawings, so that we really have, my subject matter experts have taken the time to literally sell this. And now some of the things we have to think about is audience. We have technical audiences and we have business audiences. And so sometimes we have to look at different things, especially if you're in manufacturing and industry. If you look at these things where you talk about including, these are completely different things. You look at ROI, you look at, you know, implementation, you might look at research and development, not things that we do in construction. So it's important to understand how we make sure we have that compelling argument. And then of course we have our formal presentation phase. And just like it says, it really is our last opportunity. And we don't get into decision-making during presentation. It really is to bring management back in. It might be to bring customers. It depends on what the project or process or product that you're working on. But this is our opportunity for our subject matter experts to really shine and have them have the opportunity to say, you know, we've looked at this, this is a great idea, and really kind of talk through these things. It also, to be honest, is a real opportunity for us as CVSs to continue to educate people that there is a formal value methodology, there is a job plan. And so we get a chance to actually continue to share that. So talked about preparation, workshop, implementation. So that's the final step for us when we look at being a CVS is we have to kind of clean up those, we literally do a peer review because again, remember value engineering is a team approach. So although individual team members, subject matter experts are doing their own individual proposals, we need to make sure the team looks at those. And Pat's going to actually talk through some of the ways that we do that in a collaboration. We have to document everything that went on in the study. Then we need to talk about potential implementation changes that this might occur. And we need to make sure that.
Sorry about that. So, our philosophy is you buy, we fly. And so we were doing everything in person up until March. So when the pandemic happened, we had to, we employed several people and we had to keep the doors open, and we got together as a team and we put together an approach and protocols to be able to meet client needs. And so coming together as a team, we realized, well, how we're going to do business differently, what did we have to consider? And one was technology. And that's, as you heard what Renee said, is we use flip charts and sticky notes and markers. So the whole technology piece was really important. And that's often customer driven. So what we look at is what's the meeting platform. And we started out with the Zoom and realized that that's not one size fits all. So it was really important to understand that certain clients, we have a lot of federal clients, that Zoom is not acceptable as a meeting platform. And we looked at MS Teams and WebEx. So understanding, what your meeting platform is part of your preparation. Then what tools are we going to use for collaboration? We've done all this in person. We've done the workbooks in development. How are we going to collaborate with our SMEs? What tools do we need to use for that so we can produce a deliverable in a virtual environment? We also had to develop rules of engagement and protocols. We have people all over the country that we're working with. And so, for example, we are all working in remote locations. Does everybody have the technology in order to work on their computer? Do they have the programs, the software equipment needed to be considered? And so one of the things that helped us with making sure that our team members and our clients could work with us, that we could communicate and collaborate, was prior to a workshop start, and those are typically anywhere from 3 to 5 days. And you don't want to have a disruptive environment during a workshop. What we would do is a technology dry run the week before and just make sure that everybody's able to get into the documents, the workroom, et cetera, that they can use the technology, the meeting tools, the collaborative tools. And so what we found, in addition to our team prior was, we have the CVS and maybe a workshop assistant. Now we have to look at that workshop assistant being technology. So that technical assistant now is in the background, taking care of the technology. And if anything goes astray, they're leading the dry run meeting. But that's so that the facilitator, the CVS facilitator, can work through all the other phases of the job plan. And also, as part of our preparation, really important is we send out a VE workshop package. And in that, we will have our protocols, et cetera, in there. So the approach to the preparation stage is a little bit different. Somehow we're not able to, okay, there we go. So workshop, what are we doing different during the workshop? Well, we have different tools and approaches. One of the tools is And we like doing this because sometimes in this environment, it's really hard to engage people. It's hard to create a safe place. And you want to do that because people have to be comfortable sharing information, sharing their knowledge. So we start the day with an icebreaker. And we do a rotation on that. So every one of the SMEs gets a chance to lead an icebreaker. And it just kind of breaks up a little bit of the monotony. Also important, longer and more frequent breaks. It's not like we're on break all the time, but it might be a 10, 15-minute break, twice in the morning, twice in the afternoon, plus the long break. The in-brief presentation, we're not doing a site visit necessarily. We might be doing a virtual site tour to be able to see the project site. And so that's a little bit different. Fast diagrams. Again, we're not using sticky notes. You can see on the sample here is we might be using a tool. There's various tools, Miro and Jamboard, that also allows you to collaborate. Everybody can come in, move around the sticky notes for the fast diagram to make sense. During the creative phase, that's where it's about getting as many ideas as possible. What we'll look at is doing a sprint, and we'll just say, okay, we're brainstorming this function. Everybody, let's talk a little bit about the baseline, get a few ideas on the list, but then just have her for the next 10 minutes, put in the chat box all your ideas on alternatives to this particular function. And we've had really good results with that. Again, it's about quantity at this point. For evaluation tool, there's various polls that you can use. You can just, old-fashioned raise your hand. And then in terms of development, that's really where we're developing the workbooks, and folks are really working on their own, but we do have periodic check-ins with the team. And also, as Renee mentioned before, what was really important is we develop these workbooks as a team that we have peer reviews. So really everybody has a hand in it. So what I wanted to do is just take a couple of minutes and show you a virtual workroom. So that's one of the things that we like to set up for. Jeff, can you give me a verbal that you can see the workroom?
You're all good. We can see it, Pat. We're actually seeing your slide still of it. So, yep, if you can share over.
Yeah, let me go ahead and try that again. Okay, there we are. Okay,
and we can
technology, gotta love it. So what we did, this is like a landing page. So when we're doing this virtually, we've set up a landing page for each project. This can, happens to be in Google. However, it's really it's a navigation tool. So we have a workshop agenda, but then each meeting day has its own link. So the SMEs can kind of click on a link and get into the meeting. They click on this. Then the whole job plan that Renee described earlier, it's live. If we're studying documents, all the documents are in this virtual thumb drive. And then we have various tools as we work through the value methodology, the various phases of the value methodology. There's a hot link so we can click on, cost model here. And the cost model is, and hopefully you guys can still see my screen, but there's a cost model that we would have. That's a pretty simple one.
I might just want to say really quick for you cost.
Yeah, sure.
The reason that the cost model is really about a form of communication. And what we use in value engineering is the Pareto rule. And the reason we want that is we have a very limited amount of time. And we realize that usually 80% of the costs are in 20% of the items. So it helps our team focus. So you guys have a really, it's a great opportunity for us to really rely on you guys as cost estimators to help us stay focused based on those cost models.
So it's really important for us to kind of set up this landing page. And again, this allows the collaboration. this is probably where we spend a lot, the most time, which is in the workbook development. We can spend in a 5-day workshop, we can spend a couple days there. And so what we'll do is set up workbook folders that team members, can work on and also collaborate. And this just happens to be in SharePoint. And so folks are able to, have their workbooks that they're working on, and we set up breakout rooms potentially for collaboration. Really the whole point is it was really a different way for us to think about how we do business. And that was really important so that we could be responsive. So now, what have we learned? So post-workshop, what we try to do is after every workshop, have kind of a lessons learned meeting. And some clients require it because these virtual tools, virtual workshops are new for, fairly new for our clients, but they've all embraced it. But it's, it's really the idea that we want to continually improve. We also get feedback from a standpoint of evaluations like you would do in a normal workshop. But we found that the virtual environment has really been successful. And here's the cool thing, that even if we go back in person, there's a lot of these tools we're going to bring with us to in-person workshops. So we're pretty excited about it, and continuous improvement.
Thanks, Pat. And so the last thing that I really want to talk about and share is really about SAVE International. And as the president, I act June, and then I will be the past president for 2 years. But this goes to my conversation about, SAVE International has been around since 1959. And a lot of people don't even know what it is. The website is up there. We'd really love to have you guys take a look at it. But it really is about all things value. We're hoping that people look to SAVE to be that. So what we look at SAVE is we have what we call our PACE. And that really is to promote, advocate, certify, and educate of all things value, but also value enhancing tools. By the way, cost estimating, risk analysis, problem solving, creativity, evaluation tools, all of those things are things that we have available. There are articles, all kinds of different things that you can look at related to the value engineering or value methodology. So we're still calling it value engineering. We have 2 levels of certification. We have what we call the Value Methodology Associate, or the VMA. That recognizes individuals who are new to the methodology, and they received the basic value methodology training, and we'll talk about the training in a minute. And then they've also taken the first exam and passed it. The second one, which is the highest, is the Certified Value Specialist. That does take quite a bit more. And if you're going to become a CVS, it's because you want to become a team leader and a facilitator because you want to lead studies. So the formal training that supports certification is what we call the VMF1, the VMF2, which is really the value methodology fundamentals. The first one, if you're going to get your VMA, you take that, it's 32 hours, then you take the exam, and if you pass, then you become a VMA. Then as you're moving forward, you don't have to become a CVS, but as you get into the VMF2, it's again 32 hours, but it really gets into the advanced. I'm going to tell you a lot of time on function analysis, because as you saw, there's a lot that goes into that. But the other part that is really is we get into the financial aspects. So we get into talking about cost benefit analysis, break-even analysis, life cycle cost. And then one real big focus again is on facilitation, because you do have to learn, being a facilitator is not an easy job. It's not just standing up there. You have to manage quite a few different personalities, times, schedules, and by the way, things never work the way they're supposed to. So you have to be able to think on your feet. So we have geared quite a bit of training now to that part of it. Really, really excited about that for any of you who are also PMI members. SAVE just did we call it our VM guide, but it really is the body of knowledge for the value methodology. This is available for sale. It is all things value. Any questions you could possibly have, information, data, everything is in here about soup to nuts. So it also, we have a glossary of terms. It's just a really great informational tool. We're trying to get this out. We just published it. I'm not even sure it's been a year yet, but it is available. You can also get it available online. And we suggest and recommend that if you want to learn about value, this is the best place to start. So I'm going to talk really quickly about SAVE and ASPE because I think there are some really great opportunities. So what SAVE has is members, and by the way, they're not just CVS team leaders. We do have clients because some of them are getting their certification, but they support us. But our members are CVS team leaders, they're VMAs, they're clients, but they're the ones that are certified in the VM process to ensure that we have successful workshop outcomes. One of the biggest challenges that we fight is people claim that they already do. Oh no, we do VE, but they don't really. They're not going through the process. So if you remember that first diagram that I showed you, they're going problem solution. We're making sure that we go through the process. ASPE members are used as qualified subject matter experts. Like I said, in most cases, we have our own. Sometimes with the Corps of Engineers, we have to use theirs. Sometimes that means that our cost estimators also need to be MCASES. Also, if you're doing industrial or manufacturing, different than what we would do for design and construction, but we use you guys and we love you because trying to get our designers to do cost estimating, not as good, but sometimes we have to rely on that. But we have all areas of cost estimating. So it's for design, construction, industrial manufacturing. There's some really great opportunities, I think, for this alliance. We also have a professional directory that you can actually advertise your services where all of our members could actually go there if they were looking for a particular type of cost estimator for a particular type of project or process workshop that we were doing. We have many of the same clients. I think we focus on meeting our clients' needs. We also, I think, are looking at innovation and out-of-the-box thinking. I think we can both help our clients to understand the true meaning of value and so that the client can get more of what they want instead of that you can get what you can afford. This kind of gives them a chance to get better. And I think we can use VM to improve our value to both organizations. And some of our CVSs are already members. We probably have some ASPE members, APWA, AIA, ASCE, PMI, ACE. They actually cross over. I know I'm a member of a couple of them. So I think that also ties us together. And so what I really like to try to figure out is there's an opportunity for us to maybe share resources. So with that, I think I want to thank you very much for giving Pat and I this opportunity. This is just kind of our RHA team. We've got a few of us who are CVSs and some new VMAs, but we're really excited about what we do from RHA's perspective. But I'm also really excited about the opportunities between SAVE and ASPE. So thank you very much for giving us this opportunity.
Well, I'll speak for everybody because we are in the webinar mode. So remember that normally we do these as meetings, but it was a little bit easier for us to get this here. So I do have questions for y'all. So we'll start with a quick one from Andy. Andy's got a two-part question here. We're going to start with what types of construction projects and clients are utilizing value methodology?
Well, that's kind of across the board. So just so that you understand, we have Public Law 104, 106 that was passed. We have the new A131 circular that was a couple of years ago that was passed. So any federal agency is required by law to do formal value engineering on the federal level. And then tying the state to the federal is transportation. So through the every new, I don't know what they're calling it now, iced tea, next tea, whatever it happens to be for the next, who knows. Value engineering is also in there. Their thresholds are much higher though, based on project cost. So from a federal standpoint, it's across the board related to types of projects. But then we have, so for example, the city of New York, they also require almost every city project to be considered for value engineering. So we literally, guys, it goes from A to Z. I mean, from zoos to wastewater treatment, water treatment, airports, roads, bridges, prisons, schools, hospitals. There's a whole lot of this. State of Washington, they also require VE for prisons and schools through DES. So there's some agencies that really see the benefit. And by the way, speaking personally, I can't figure out why more government agencies wouldn't look for an opportunity to be able to spread their resources better because they're getting better value.
I think that's awesome because it goes straight into the next part of Andy's question was, you know, the formal VM workshop efforts seem to be quite involved with participants and times. Do you have a rule of thumb for how much it will cost a client to hire a team such as yours to lead a VM workshop for a construction project during the design phase? How much time do you think the multidisciplinary client design team will be participating in the VM efforts, including the prep, workshop, et cetera, per person?
Right. So it depends on the, okay, first of all, a couple things. First, it depends on the length of the workshop. But you cannot do a formal VE workshop in less than 3 days. So we do have the ability. It also depends on the complexity, which helps us define the length. If you're doing, you know, a bridge job versus you're doing a brand new hospital, you're not going to do that in 3 days because you don't get a chance to focus on, right? Which is another reason why I said we look at the 80-20 rule so that we're really focusing on, you know, where those big ticket items are to give us an opportunity to look at cost. So it depends on then the length of the study, and then it depends on how many subject matter experts. We have one client, which is the Department of State, because we do the embassies around the world, and they require us to have really big teams. Those get expensive, and they're 15. A minimum of 5. We have anywhere from, I don't know, 10 to 15 people.
20 people, yeah.
It depends on what they're looking for. And we've had other ones where there are only 5. So again, it looks at that, but I'm going to tell you that, you know, it could, if I use theirs, because theirs is the upper limit, because there's so many people, a 5-day workshop is over $100 grand.
Okay.
But now let's back off to that. And it's not that bad. We're looking at doing a 3-day workshop. And when you look at us bringing the subject matter experts with us, it is about 35,000, somewhere in there, 35 to 50, again, depending on, but here's what I want you guys to think about. The ROI, the rate of investment. So the cost of the workshop versus what they get. So if you look in Save International and you look at their website, they're really, they like to be really low. And so because we want to under promise and over deliver, they tell you that the rate of investment, the ROI is 20 to 1. We don't even see that. Our ROIs are up into the 100 to 1. Our manufacturing ones are 350 plus to 1. So what I want you to remember is, who wouldn't want to invest $1 and get 350 bucks?
I mean, it beats Vegas for sure. Now,
just saying,
just saying. I mean, that's great return on investment. And you kind of touched on it, but, you know, Laura asks in our chat over here, how do you determine who needs to be in the workshop for a project? Or more specifically, who determines that?
Well, that's typically in the preparation stage of the workshop. You know, when you're scoping out the value study, you're putting together the agenda, that's a discussion that you have with the customer. It's like, what are the needs of the project? What's happening? What have been your issues? Yeah, I mean, it's really having a conversation, and you can have full-time and part-time team members. Sometimes you bring somebody in for a few hours as a specialist. Typically we see full-time team members, but it's really having a conversation. It's typically customer driven, but the CVS who has experience can offer some suggestions based on experience.
But I will also tell you, related to teams, there are those clients who hire us and all we do is lead the team and they provide all the team members.
That's right.
And then we have other clients where we bring them, in fact, all of our core contracts, Department of State, we bring all of the SMEs with us. So we don't just bring anybody, we ask for resumes. We want to make sure that you've had experience. And so let me talk about the cost estimating. When we're doing Department of State, our cost estimators have to have international experience because all of those embassies are somewhere else. And the cost associated with doing international work is very different than doing US based work.
It's a great one because it kind of goes back to your core philosophy. Tell us what your problem is and we'll tell you who we need to bring to the table.
Correct.
And who needs to be there with us. And this is a two-part because Laura and Robert asked kind of the same thing. And I was interested in this. At what stage, do you really is the best practice to implement this value management? Is it on percent complete of construction documents? Where do you guys see the most impact? And if you had to say where's the best place?
Okay, so it depends. Yeah, I guess Pat's correct. It does partly depend, but what are you looking at? I mean, if you look at your ROI, you are going to get your best bang for your buck the earlier that you do this. So if you wait, most of ours, we see them at no longer than 30%. If you go beyond 30, then your ability for the client to accept implementable ideas goes down because now I have to do redesign. And there's a cost impact to redesign. So if you've gone beyond the 30% stage, now I'm not going to lie to you, we've gotten phone calls at 60 and 75%. But guess what we did? First of all, we used function analysis to confirm scope. So that do we have the right scope in the documents? Have we addressed it? But normally what we're looking at then are constructability. We do a value study focused on constructability, not on the focus of having to redesign, unless there's a problem that maybe the design team is still struggling with, and then they get to take advantage of us. But we'll do value planning. We'll actually do it back here at 15%. So we actually get to design value into the project instead of waiting to 30 and then having to redesign. So and then sometimes we've done 2 of them. We'll do it here at the planning phase and all we have is really planning documents. And then we'll do it again at 30 to confirm that we did integrate those value engineering ideas. Sometimes my designers don't kind of do what they're told sometimes.
You sound like an estimator there. You sound like an estimator there. Trust but verify that they're in the documents, right?
There you go. You are there.
This is the new world that we have.
The better return on investment you're going to get.
Awesome. Well, I got one here because, I think especially from where we sit as an organization, most owners seem only interested in performing VE when the projects are over budget. What's the best way to convince an owner that VE should be performed on every major project to enhance the value of their projects?
Have them call me.
I love that answer.
It's an education.
It really is. Again, it goes back to all that education. And if you get the tools and you get the information and you can really talk to them just about even some of the stuff we said, that what happens when you cost cut, function and performance, and which by the way is defined as scope, is what gets cut. And that's why we have so many people who hate when somebody says, hey, I need to do a value engineering workshop. Because what that means is, oh my God, we're just going to cut scope. We're not going to get what we want. But here's what I would tell you. I got a phone call from an engineer, God love him. And I think he finally heard my training because he called up and said, Renee, we need to do a cost reduction workshop. I said, I am so proud of you for not calling it a value engineering workshop. But here's what we did. We still defined function and performance so that when we got into evaluation, we all said, if it meets the same function or is better than, and it reduces cost, we'll immediately accept that. And by the way, we needed to find $12 million, and we did with 0 impact to performance. But it has to be talked about. We have to be able to identify what's important to the client. How must this perform? Because sometimes they want a lot of extra stuff that they don't quite understand the cost associated with that extra stuff.
Yeah, it's really It's really targeting value and sticking to that value proposition without, compromising. And that takes
Correct.
conversation. I mean, you guys hit that quite a bit throughout the entire process. So,
Correct.
so we have two more questions for you. I'm going to try to jump to, I apologize, but Olafemi asks, can you provide contact information of the panelists? Do you offer the VM F1 course and exam, and when's the next one? So I great segue, because, we're getting close to the point where we're going to wrap this up. So how can people get more in touch with and find out more about what's going on with RHA and with SAVE?
Okay, so RHA, our information is right here,
It's teamrha.com, right?
correct?
And then SAVE, what's the website for SAVE again?
Hold on, I had it here somewhere.
www.value-eng.org.
All right. If you caught that, I will throw that in the chat for everybody as well, but that's.
We really welcome. We'd love to try to figure out how we can, maybe do an alliance. Maybe there's an opportunity to us to have an organizational agreement where we can share, each of us can do things together at member prices, attend conferences and educational things at members conferences or at members prices. I think there's some really great opportunities. We're getting ready to do that with a brand new organization for industrial cost estimating. So I think there's some really great opportunities here if it's something that that ASPE might be interested in. That's been one of my goals as a president, is to try to start to develop these inter-organizational agreements so we can share.
Well, we got time. We are running out of time, but let's try and slip one last one in here before we say goodbye. Zartab asks, a project can be built in many different ways. Do you make sure the project is built in the most efficient way?
What do you mean, do we make sure? We're not building it. All we can do is, so here's what's really interesting is, because as well, I've been in the construction side of things now for probably almost 30 years. And there's only one organization that I know, which is the Department of State, that literally goes out to the construction site during construction and checks to make sure that value engineering that was put forth in design was actually adopted. But we all know there's things called VECPs, and the contractors come up with value engineering ideas, and they actually will take credit for that as well, so that we understand what the true value is. Our biggest challenge for us as team leaders is we have no control on implementation. And that is something we need to continue to share with organizations, that otherwise it's a waste of time, is to really look at what's the benefit to actually implement. And so we try to help them understand the importance of that. But we usually, once we do the report, sometimes we'll be involved with an implementation meeting, but it is just to help them make decisions on all the VE ideas. But once we're done, we're usually out of the picture.
All right. Well, thank you for the final question coming in. I'm going to have to wrap this up. I apologize if we didn't get to your questions. Gregory, I know you had one. I'm sure you can reach out to the panelists and find out about the chapters in the Northeast and Boston area. And they will help you out. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to our panelists. On behalf of ASPE Chapter 2 and their fantastic board, I want to thank them for bringing you on. And Pat and Renee, thank you so much for such quality, great information, for answering our questions, and for continuing to be a part of putting back in the industry. Here at Join, we really want to thank you. We really believe in a lot of what you're doing, solving the problems first. The Henry Ford, if Henry had asked what the world wanted, he would have said faster horses, but we got cars. We need to do business different ways. Here at Join, we're here to do business different ways. If you all want to learn any more about us, please contact us at join.build. You can check out your local ASPE Chapter 2. That's aspe2.org. You can check out value-eng.org for more information on SAVE. And don't forget to check out RHA and at teamrha.com. Thank you all for joining us today. There will be a recording out, so if you want to share it with your friends or find out more, check us out later. But we appreciate all of you for being here. And Pat, Renee, thanks again. We appreciate you.
Thanks,
Great
Jeff.
work, guys.
Guys,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Thank you so much,
Great work.
everyone.
Great work,
Thank
Jeff.
you.
And thanks to all the members that are on the line tonight. And if you want to watch the recording, go to the ASPE2.org past events page, and you'll find all our past events and this event. Take care. Signing off.